Command, we have a code extinction. The Vral'keth just rejected every cadet in the ceremony, and if it doesn't bond in the next 10 minutes, it'll execute the entire graduating class. Commander Zilax's three-fingered hand trembled against the emergency comm panel as High Command's response crackled through. Behind him, 847 cadets from 12 species stood frozen in perfect formation, their dress uniforms suddenly feeling like funeral shrouds. The Vral'keth, 9 tons of armored predator from the death world of Krovash, circled the ceremonial platform with movements that had shifted from testing to hunting. Commander, confirm your previous transmission, High Command demanded. No bonding? At all? Zero bonds, sir. Every cadet tested. Zilax watched his career and the lives of nearly 1,000 graduates evaporate in real time. The beast is entering rejection rage. Historical precedent is not favorable. That was putting it mildly. According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, the last rejection rage, 3 centuries ago, had ended with 47 dead before orbital strikes neutralized the beast. But that ceremony had seen only 12 rejections. This was 847 consecutive failures. The Vral'keth's growl deepened to a frequency that rattled bones. On the observation deck, parents from across the galaxy watched via live feed, their horror playing out in 12 different languages simultaneously. The ceremony was supposed to be the pinnacle of military tradition, 4,000 years of graduates bonding with war beasts that would serve as their partners, their weapons, their symbols of authority. Without a bonded Vral'keth, none of these cadets could take command positions. Without command positions, the entire graduating class was worthless. The political implications were staggering. These weren't random students. They were the heirs and representatives of the Galactic Council's most powerful families. Wars had started over less. Evacuation protocols? High Command asked, though they both knew the answer. Negative, sir. The beast controls the only exit. Emergency shields are rated for ship-to-ship combat, not a Vral'keth in close quarters. Zilax pulled up the historical files with shaking hands, desperately searching for any precedent, any protocol that might apply. According to Archive, once rejection rage begins, the beast will not stop until all rejected parties are eliminated, or until it bonds. Time to full rage state? Zilax glanced at the biomonitors. The Vral'keth's aggression hormones were spiking exponentially. 9 minutes, maybe less. In the cadet formation, a few of the younger ones were crying. The Vral'keth responded to the scent of fear with a snarl that showcased fangs designed to punch through starship hull plating. Its 6 eyes, 3 on each side of its elongated skull, tracked the formation with predatory precision. The creature's scales, metallic and overlapping like natural armor, caught the ceremonial lights and turned the beast into a moving constellation of threat. This is unprecedented, High Command stated, which was about as helpful as a hull breach on a life support deck. The Vral'keth have never rejected entire ceremonies. Have you deviated from any protocols? Sir, we followed every ritual to the letter. 3 days of ceremonial fasting for the beast, sacred ground preparation, traditional dominance displays from each cadet, the offering of challenge. Zilax's voice cracked. He'd overseen 17 ceremonies in his career, all successful, all perfect. I don't understand what went wrong. The Vral'keth's tail, a spiked battering ram that could demolish fortifications, swept low across the platform, forcing the nearest cadets to jump back. The formation broke. That was bad. Movement triggered hunting instinct. 8 minutes, sir, Zilax reported, watching the biomonitors climb into the red zone. Respectfully requesting permission to implement emergency euthanization of the asset. Denied. Do you have any idea what that beast costs? What it represents? Commander, those Vral'keth are more than military tradition. They're considered sacred by the Krovash sovereignty. Killing one would be a diplomatic catastrophe. And 847 dead cadets won't be? The silence on the line answered that question. Cadets could be replaced. Ancient war beasts couldn't. Near the back of the observation deck, well away from the official ceremony, Emma Johnson leaned against the wall and watched the disaster unfold with the detached interest of someone who'd seen nervous animals before. The human exchange student wasn't supposed to be here. Earth hadn't even applied for council membership yet, but her xenobiology professor had gotten her a spectator pass, thinking it might be educational. Educational? Right. She was watching what appeared to be a 9-ton panic attack in real time, and nobody seemed to have any idea what to do about it. 7 minutes, someone announced over the intercom, and Emma noticed several cadets were now openly weeping. The Vral'keth roared, and every species-specific translator in the room screamed the same thing: rejected. The ceremonial doors blasted open, and Kael'thas strode through like he owned the death itself. The elite Beastmaster's reputation preceded him. 40 years of successful Vral'keth management, personal advisor to the Krovash sovereignty, author of the definitive text on war beast psychology. If anyone could salvage this disaster, it was him. "Clear the platform," Kael'thas commanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I will perform the rite of submission." Xelax exhaled in relief. 6 minutes remaining, Master Kael'thas. More than enough. The Beastmaster approached the Vral'keth with measured, deliberate steps, his body language screaming dominance. He raised his arms in the ancient gesture, his voice dropping into the ceremonial register. "Vral'keth of Krovash, I claim authority over—" The beast moved like a missile. One moment Kael'thas was mid-ritual, the next he was airborne, launched 15 feet backward by a tail strike that should have killed him outright. Only his personal shield generator saved his life, and even that shattered on impact. He hit the wall with a sickening crack and didn't get up. Medical teams rushed forward as the Vral'keth roared its rejection so loudly that several observation windows cracked. 5 minutes! Someone shouted over the chaos. On the command channel, a new voice cut through. Council member Azila, her tone clipped and clinical. "Commander Xelax, I'm authorizing chemical intervention. Tranquilizers, military grade, sufficient to—" "Absolutely not." Xelax's response was immediate. "Tranquilizing a Vral'keth during bonding ceremony is explicitly forbidden. It would dishonor the entire graduating class, invalidate their commissions, and 847 corpses would be preferable. It would be a permanent stain on their military records. These cadets would never serve in command positions. Their families would prefer them alive and dishonored to dead and honored, I suspect." From the observation deck, Emma's voice cut through the argument like a blade through tissue paper. "Has anyone tried just being nice to it?" The command channel went silent. Every alien head in the vicinity turned toward the human. "Excuse me?" Xelax finally managed. Emma gestured at the Vral'keth, which was now gouging furrows into the ceremonial platform with its claws. "Being nice. You know, calm voice, gentle approach, maybe some reassurance. That thing looks terrified." "That thing is an apex predator from a Class 4 death world," Azila responded, her voice dripping with the kind of condescension reserved for particularly dim children. "The Vral'keth doesn't respond to niceness. It's a dominance-based species. It reads submission and authority, strength and weakness. The concept of gentle reassurance doesn't exist in its psychological framework." "Right, but," Emma squinted at the beast. "When's the last time it ate?" The question landed like a grenade in a fuel depot. Several aliens exchanged glances. "The Vral'keth undergoes a 3-day ceremonial fast before bonding," Xelax explained slowly, as if talking to someone who'd suffered head trauma. "It's tradition, spiritual purity, sharpened instincts, heightened awareness." "So you starved it." "We certainly did not starve. For 3 days. It's ceremonial." "And then you paraded 800 screaming strangers at a hungry, stressed animal and expected it to bond with one of them." Emma's laugh was sharp and disbelieving. "Are you serious right now?" 4 minutes, the intercom announced helpfully. The Vral'keth's aggression was intensifying. Its scales had shifted from their usual dark copper to a deep, angry crimson, a biological warning. Sign that every species in the galaxy had learned to fear. The beast's muscles coiled, preparing for the slaughter that instinct demanded. High Command's voice crackled through again. "Commander, we're authorizing experimental psionic suppression. There's a unit 2 sectors away. They can be in position in 3 minutes with neural dampening fields." Or, crazy idea, someone could just talk to it like it's scared instead of trying to dominate it, Emma interjected, her voice carrying across the observation deck. Zilak spun on her, his patience finally snapping. "Human, you clearly don't understand what you're witnessing. Our entire military tradition, 4,000 years of protocol, is based on dominance hierarchy. The Vral'keth respects strength. It bonds with cadets who demonstrate superior will, combat prowess, strategic thinking. What you call scared is actually the beast engaging in threat assessment. What you call terrified is a predator evaluating prey. These creatures are the galaxy's most sophisticated killing machines, and they do not respond to talking." "Have you tried?" Emma asked simply. "Of course not. The ritual demands." "That's not a ritual, Commander. That's a stress test, and your sophisticated killing machine is about 30 seconds from a complete breakdown." Emma pushed off the wall, watching the Vral'keth with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent years reading animal behavior. "Look at the way it's moving. Repetitive circling, obsessive platform scratching. Those vocalizations aren't aggressive, they're anxious. This thing isn't hunting, it's panicking." 3 minutes to full rage state, the intercom declared, and the Vral'keth dropped into an attack crouch that made every cadet in the room take an involuntary step backward. The beast's 6 eyes fixed on the formation, pupils dilating for the kill. The psionic suppression unit materialized in a flash of emergency transport. 3 operators in full combat gear hauling equipment that hummed with barely contained power. They didn't bother with introductions or explanations, just activated the neural dampening field and aimed it directly at the Vral'keth's skull. For exactly 2 seconds, the beast froze. Then it screamed. The sound wasn't in any register that organic ears were designed to process. It bypassed hearing entirely and went straight to the part of the brain that controlled primal terror. Half the cadets collapsed. The psionic operator's equipment exploded in showers of sparks. One of them started bleeding from the eyes. "Abort! Abort!" someone was screaming, but the Vral'keth was already moving. Not hunting anymore, not testing, berserking. The beast hit the emergency shields at full speed, and the entire stadium shook. Alarms shrieked as power readings spiked into critical ranges. The ceremonial platform cracked down the middle. One of the observation windows shattered completely, sending crystalline shards raining down on the cadets below. "Shields at 40%. Azila's voice had lost all its clinical detachment. 2 minutes until breach, possibly less." The Vral'keth attacked the shields again and again, each impact sending cascading failures through the containment systems. Its crimson scales had darkened to nearly black, every biological weapon system the creature possessed now fully deployed. The spikes along its spine were extended, dripping with venom that could dissolve starship armor. Its claws, retracted during the testing phase, now gleamed like monomolecular blades. "This is High Command. All personnel, evacuate immediately. We're authorizing orbital—" "Oh, for crying out loud," Emma muttered, and before anyone could stop her, she vaulted the observation deck railing. She hit the ceremonial floor with a practiced roll, came up on her feet, and started walking toward the beast like she was approaching a nervous horse instead of 9 tons of apocalyptic rage. "Humans, stop!" Zilax's voice cracked with panic. "Security, restrain her immediately." "Can I try?" Emma called back, not breaking stride. "I used to work with aggressive dogs. This is a 9-ton apex predator from a death world, not a dog." "Yeah, and scared is scared." Emma kept walking, her body language so wrong by every military standard that several cadets gasped in horror. She wasn't projecting dominance, wasn't showing submission. Just walking, casual, relaxed, like the thing ahead of her wasn't currently trying to murder its way through military-grade shielding. What have you got to lose? You're about to orbital strike your own academy anyway. Zilax opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the shields, now at 28% and falling, and made the desperate calculation of someone with absolutely no other options. Let her through, he croaked. Commander, you can't be, let her through. The security cordon parted like water, every guard looking at Emma like she was already dead. 90 seconds to shield breach, the intercom announced, because apparently the universe had a sense of dramatic timing. Emma approached the Vral'keth, which was mid-charge at the failing shields, and did something that made every military expert present question their understanding of reality itself. She sat down, just dropped right onto the cracked ceremonial platform, crossed her legs, and sat there, with her back partially to the beast, completely vulnerable, breaking every survival instinct that billions of years of evolution had coded into organic life. "Hey, buddy," she said, her voice soft and conversational, like she was talking to a friend over coffee instead of an actively berserking war beast. "Rough day, huh? All those people yelling at you?" The Vral'keth stopped mid-charge. Its 6 eyes swiveled toward Emma, confusion breaking through the rage like light through storm clouds. The beast's head tilted in a gesture so incongruously puppy-like that it sent cognitive dissonance rippling through every observer. 60 seconds, the intercom whispered, but everyone had stopped paying attention to the countdown. "I get it," Emma continued, still not making direct eye contact, her posture radiating the kind of calm that shouldn't exist in the presence of imminent death. "You're supposed to do this big important thing and everyone's watching and it's terrifying. Performance anxiety is brutal." The Vral'keth took a tentative step toward her, then another, not hunting steps, curious ones. Its scales began shifting from black back toward crimson, then copper. The venom retracted. The spikes along its spine slowly folded down. "What is she doing?" Azila breathed into the command channel. "I have no idea," Zilax admitted, unable to look away. The beast circled Emma slowly, its massive head lowering to sniff at her. She remained perfectly still, breathing steady, exuding the kind of tranquility that shouldn't be possible for a human sitting within biting distance of a creature that could swallow her whole. Emma reached into her jacket pocket, moving slowly, telegraphing the motion, and produced something wrapped in foil. She unwrapped it carefully. A sandwich, half of one anyway, probably left over from lunch. "Here." She held it out on her palm, not looking at the beast, offering rather than demanding. "The ceremony's dumb anyway. You shouldn't have to work on an empty stomach." "She's feeding it," someone whispered in horror. "During the sacred ceremony, she's—" The Vral'keth's tongue, a prehensile appendage designed for stripping flesh from bone, delicately lifted the sandwich from Emma's hand. The beast ate it in one bite, its movements suddenly careful, almost gentle. 30 seconds to wait. The technician monitoring the shield sounded confused. "Aggression hormones are dropping, rapidly, bio signs returning to baseline. This doesn't make sense." Emma finally looked up at the Vral'keth, meeting its eyes with a smile that held no fear, no aggression, no dominance challenge, just warmth. "Good boy," she said softly. "You're just doing your best, aren't you? This whole thing probably seemed like a nightmare. Strangers everywhere, nobody explaining anything, everyone demanding stuff from you." She shook her head. "That's no way to make friends." The Vral'keth, ancient war beast, apex predator, the galaxy's most sophisticated killing machine, made a sound that its species had never been recorded making in 4,000 years of military service. It purred. Then, as 847 cadets and 24 military experts watched in stunned silence, the Vral'keth lowered itself to the ground and rested its massive head in Emma Johnson's lap. The silence in the ceremonial hall was so complete that Emma could hear the Vral'keth's breathing, deep, steady, no longer the rapid panting of panic. She ran her hand along the ridge behind its armored headplates, finding the softer scales beneath, and scratched gently. There we go. Much better, right? The beast's response rumbled through the platform, through the walls, through the chest cavity of every person present. It wasn't a growl, wasn't a snarl or a roar or any of the vocalizations documented in 4,000 years of military records. It was contentment. Pure, unmistakable contentment. This is impossible. Zilax's voice came out strangled, like someone had replaced his vocal cords with static. The Vral'keth kneels to no one. That's the entire point. They're dominance-based predators. They bond with strength, with authority, with... He gestured helplessly at Emma, who was now scratching behind both sides of the beast's head, while it made increasingly ridiculous happy noises. Not with that. Maybe it kneels when someone finally treats it like a living thing instead of a test, Emma said mildly, her fingers finding a particular spot that made the Vral'keth's back leg twitch in satisfaction. Revolutionary concept, I know. On the command deck, Azila was staring at her scanner array like it had personally betrayed her. The human's cortisol levels are... She's not even afraid. Her heart rate is barely elevated. Her adrenaline is lower than some of the observers. How is that? How can she... Why would I be afraid? Emma glanced up, genuinely confused by the question. He's just a big anxious baby who needed someone to be kind to him. She addressed the Vral'keth directly. Isn't that right? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The beast, 9 tons of apex predator, the galaxy's most sophisticated killing machine, sacred symbol of military might, rolled partially onto its side so Emma could reach its belly scales. I'm going to be sick, someone muttered from the cadet formation. Emma stood, brushing ceremonial platform dust off her pants, and started walking back toward the observation deck. The Vral'keth immediately scrambled to its feet and followed her like an oversized puppy, its tail, which moments ago had been a devastating weapon, now wagging slightly. Actually wagging. No, Kel'Thas croaked from where medical was treating him. No, this can't. The bonding ritual requires. There are protocols. But there was no denying what everyone was seeing. The Vral'keth, which had rejected 847 cadets with increasing violence, was trotting after a human library assistant like she'd hung the stars. When Emma paused to let it catch up, it pressed its massive head against her side, demanding more attention. 4,000 years, Zilax said to no one in particular. 4,000 years of tradition, of ceremony, of carefully documented protocols for war beast bonding, and a human with half a sandwich just shattered every paradigm we have about Vral'keth psychology, Azila finished, still staring at her scanners. The bond readings are off the scale. This isn't just acceptance. This is complete, absolute trust, the kind of bond we've never seen in recorded history. The beast has chosen her as its bonded partner. High Command's voice cut through the stunned silence, sharp with barely controlled panic. Commander Zilax, explain what just happened, immediately. Sir, the human exchange student has... The Vral'keth has... I don't have an explanation, sir. Get me one, and get me the human. Emma had reached the observation deck stairs, the Vral'keth still glued to her side, when she heard her name being called. She turned, checking her watch with the kind of mild annoyance usually reserved for unexpected meetings. Look, I've got a shift at the campus library in 20 minutes. Can someone else handle the ceremony thing? She gestured at the 847 still unbonded cadets. Maybe try feeding them first, and not screaming dominance challenges? Just a thought. The Vral'keth rumbled agreement, its massive head bumping against Emma's shoulder affectionately. The human spectator just bonded with our ceremonial war beast, someone whispered, and the words seemed to finally crystallize the magnitude of what had just occurred. 4,000 years of military tradition hadn't just been challenged. It had been completely demolished by a veterinary assistant with a half-eaten sandwich and the radical notion that maybe, just maybe, treating terrified animals with kindness was more effective than ritualized dominance displays. "I need to sit down," Zilak said weakly, and did exactly that. The emergency council session convened within the hour, representatives from 12 species appearing via holographic projection, all demanding answers to the same impossible question: how had a human broken their most sacred military tradition? Emma wasn't there. She'd made it to her library shift on time, the Vral'keth padding along beside her through the campus corridors like the galaxy's most over-engineered emotional support animal. Students pressed themselves against walls as they passed, eyes wide with terror. "He's fine, just don't yell at him," Emma called over her shoulder, settling behind the circulation desk. The Vral'keth immediately curled up at her feet, its massive body somehow fitting into the space beneath the counter, and promptly fell asleep with its head resting on Emma's shoes. A sophomore approached with a stack of books, trembling. Is that safe?" "Completely. He's exhausted. Apparently, nobody thought to let him sleep properly for 3 days either." Emma scanned the books with practiced efficiency. "Due back in 2 weeks. No late fees if you return them to the night drop." Back in the council chamber, Zilak was presenting his preliminary analysis, his voice still shaky. "The human appears to approach fear hierarchy dynamics completely backward. Where we perceive dominance challenges, they perceive anxiety, stress, emotional distress requiring comfort." Azila pulled up the bioscan data, displaying it for the entire council. Every behavior we interpreted as the human showing weakness, the relaxed posture, the soft vocalizations, the offering of food without dominance display, the Vral'keth interpreted as ultimate confidence, a being so secure in their position that they have no need to prove dominance. "That can't be right," the Krovash representative objected. "Our species has studied Vral'keth psychology for millennia. They're apex predators. They require dominant partners." "Or," Kael'thas interjected from his medical bed, his dignity in tatters but his scientific curiosity winning out, "they've been traumatized by dominant partners for millennia, and we never noticed because we were too busy congratulating ourselves on our superior tactical doctrine." The silence that followed was damning. High Command's analysis came through an hour later, and it was worse than anyone had anticipated. Every protocol they'd developed for war beast bonding, the fasting, the isolation, the dominance displays, the challenge rituals, was actively stress-inducing. They'd been selecting for cadets who could intimidate the beasts into submission, which made the beasts defensive, which required even more intimidation, which created a cycle of escalating aggression that everyone had mistaken for tradition. Emma had selected for nothing, represented no threat, showed pure empathy, and the Vral'keth had been craving exactly that for 4,000 years. "We're drafting new protocols," Zilak announced to the council, pulling up a document titled Human Pacification Method, Preliminary Guidelines. Emma's response, when informed, was immediate. "That's a horrifying name for just be nice." "The Academy is requesting you conduct a training seminar," Azila added, "for all Beastmaster candidates. They're willing to offer substantial compensation." Emma looked up from reshelving books, the Vral'keth still snoring at her feet. "I'm a part-time library assistant who likes animals. This isn't complicated. You just treat them like they have feelings." Because they do. But it was complicated for species whose entire social structure was built on dominance hierarchies, whose military traditions revolved around strength displays, whose concept of leadership was inextricably tied to intimidation. The human concept of kindness as strength didn't just challenge their protocols, it inverted their entire worldview. 3 days later, Emma sat in the campus library's back study room, working on an essay about xenobiological ethics that was due by midnight. The Vral'keth was sprawled across half the room, belly up, making the contented rumbling sounds that had become its default state around Emma. At the next table, Zilak typed his official report to High Command, the words appearing with grim finality. "Note, human concept of kindness remains strategically superior to 4,000 years of tactical doctrine. Recommend complete protocol revision." Previous bonding methods may constitute unintentional psychological trauma to war beast population. Request human consultation for all future ceremonies. Emma glanced over, reading the screen, and laughed. Actually laughed. You guys are exhausting. We're thorough, Zilax corrected, but there was no heat in it. How could there be? The human had solved their unsolvable problem with a sandwich and a scratch behind the ears. Sure. Thorough. Emma turned back to her essay, absently reaching down to rub the Vral'keth's belly with one hand while typing with the other. The beast's back leg twitched in pure bliss. Although maybe next time, before you spend 4 millennia building elaborate military traditions around animal bonding, you could try just asking the animals what they want? The Vral'keth rumbled agreement. This essay is killing me, Emma muttered, staring at her screen. Why did I think taking advanced xenopsychology was a good idea? At her feet, the galaxy's most feared war beast, sacred symbol of military might, apex predator, the creature that had nearly slaughtered 847 graduates, stretched luxuriously and went back to sleep, secure in the knowledge that its human would protect it from all the scary things in the universe, like formal ceremonies and empty stomachs, and people who forgot that even apex predators needed kindness sometimes. Zilax watched them for a long moment, then added a final line to his report. Humans remain operationally inexplicable. Recommend continued observation, from a safe distance, with snacks available. Emma snorted. Now you're learning.